Mert, good luck for tomorrow's game. It's a very important game, and we had a discussion with you before the previous game as well. You told us that it was going to be a special game against Austria, but that was a defeat. What can be different in this game? Do you think that game can impact this game? Well, this game will be more special for me. That much is clear because we're potentially looking at advancing onto the quarterfinals. Both teams want to do that, of course, and hopefully we'll win the game tomorrow.
Merhaba, hayırlı olsun. Tekrar inşallah.
Hello. Well, good luck, and hopefully you'll win tomorrow's game. My name is Serhan Türk. Well, of course, scoring is important, but not getting goals scored against you is also very important. You scored a very important goal in the first game. Arda's goal was maybe a bit more spectacular, but do you think you will have a lot more work in terms of defending in tomorrow's game? Well, we did a thorough analysis of our opponents over the past couple of days. We prepared really well. I don't think this game will be like the previous one, so we prepared really well, and hopefully we'll pass this round.
Haben Sie viele Anrufe von Ihren Wiener Freunden in den letzten Tagen bekommen?
Well, basically, the question is, which emotions will you have tomorrow? Because basically, it is the first, or it will be the first one, that you stand on the pitch with players from Rapid Wien. Well, it is a very impressive and important match tomorrow, so therefore a lot of friends from Vienna and Austria basically called me, and many of them will be in the stadium tomorrow. I look forward to the game, and I hope it'll be good, and hopefully we will be the winners.
Well, here's my question. Well, first of all, good luck tomorrow, and all of Turkey will be supporting you tomorrow. You were on the pitch a couple of moments ago. You took photos and you spent some time on the pitch. What do you feel? What will tomorrow be like? What will be the emotions? Well, as soon as we step out onto the pitch, everyone, each one of the players, we were all thinking what kind of an atmosphere we will have tomorrow. And in previous games so far, we've been very well loved and supported by our supporters. And hopefully, it'll be the same tomorrow. We'll go through the similar emotions. My name is Emre Kaplan. Good luck, Mert and coach. Since the beginning of the tournament, and even since before the beginning of the tournament, we've had a lot of injuries and a lot of bookings and suspensions in the defensive line. Now, maybe you don't really have the habit of playing together in the national team, but we see a line of four that is in constant rotation. It's in constant flux. Is that an additional challenge for you? Well, if we have an injury or a suspension in training, we get the opportunity to know each other really well. So we have options because we've been training together for the past certain number of weeks. Everyone knows each other really well, and we have great harmony in the team, and everyone is highly motivated. So regardless of who is playing, filling in a spot, I don't think we'll have problems.
More question for the player?
My name is Çiğdem Günal. Mert, before the beginning of the tournament, we saw in the media and maybe supporters weren't really thinking that you would make the first starting 11, but you scored a spectacular goal against Georgia and you performed really well. In the Super League, in the Turkish League, there was a high level of competition and it was quite tough. So how do you feel? What do you think you are at in terms of a percentage of your peak performance? Well, each player that makes it to the national team, they have to do their best. And I stayed ready with Fenerbahce even when I was not on the pitch and playing actively. But it was a dream of mine to make it to the national team for this tournament. So I kept myself in tip-top shape. And be it in trainings or in actual games, I always put 100% of my capabilities onto the pitch. And of course, the coach made the choice of putting me in. And whenever that is the case, I always try my best and bring my A game.
Benjamin Poster, Leipziger Volkszeitung. Hallo Mert.
Benjamin
Herzlich
Poster
willkommen.
from the
Warst du schon mal
Leipzig
in Leipzig?
newspaper.
Gibt es
Mert,
Verbindungen in die
welcome.
Stadt?
Have you ever
Und
been to Leipzig? Are there any
Arda Güler,
connections
dein
with the
Mitspieler,
city?
herrscht ein großer
And
Hype. Wie nimmst du ihn wahr?
around
Wie
Arda
ist er drauf?
Güler, your team player, there's a huge hype. How do you
Cooler, lässiger
perceive that?
Spieler, würde ich mal sagen. Mit
Well,
Leipzig
he's a
habe ich keine
cool,
Verbindung.
quite
Davor war ich auch nie
nice
in Leipzig.
player. Well, I have no
Ja,
connections with Leipzig.
das
I've never
Einzige, was ich
been
dazu
here.
sagen kann.
And that's the only thing I can say about that.
Okay.
Hallo Mert, auf welche Spieler von Österreich muss man
Hello,
besonders
Mert. Which
aufpassen?
Austrian players do you have to be careful about? And you had the chance to
Ja,
play
ich
for
sage mal
Austria.
so,
Has that ever been a
Österreich ist
topic
als
for you to play for
Mannschaft
Austria?
gesehen sehr stark. Also jetzt
Well, Austria
will
is
ich keinen
very
einzelnen
strong.
Spieler
It's a very
rausnehmen,
strong
aber
team.
als
I
Mannschaft
think I would
gesehen
not pick one individual player
agieren die sehr
out,
gut.
but I
Verteidigen ihre
think as a
Stärken sehr
team,
gut, ihre
they
Schwächen
are,
sehr gut und
they play very
dementsprechend
well. They know their
sind
weaknesses. They know
sie
their
immer mit
strengths,
100%
and
dabei, geben
therefore
immer Vollgas.
they always give
Und
100%
ja,
of
es
their
ist halt so, ich bin halt in
performance.
Österreich aufgewachsen,
And
bin
well,
dort
I
zur
grew
Schule
up in
gegangen, habe dort
Austria.
Fußball
I
spielen
went to school in
gelernt
Austria.
und ja,
I
natürlich herrscht
learned
eine
to
gewisse
play
Bindung
football
zwischen
there.
uns.
And of course, there's a
Ich habe aber
specific
in der Türkei
connection
die
to Austria.
U17-Nationalmannschaft
But
durchlaufen,
in
U19
Turkey, I
und
went
da
through
kam
the
dann die
U17,
A-Nationalmannschaft
U19
und
national
da
team,
hat
and then there
man
was the adult,
keine andere Option
the
als Ja zu
senior
sagen
national
und bin
team. And
genau das
basically, you don't have
bisher
another
gesehen habe.
chance to say yes. So for me, it
Now we
wasn't
are going
an
to move the
option to go to
question for
Austria.
the coach.
Hello, coach. We are
Hello.
vis-a-vis in sports. Just want to know what do you think about the level of Austria national team here?
Okay, the first one.
Yes.
Ma l'Austria l'abbiamo affrontata qualche mese fa e già ho avuto questa impressione.
We played against Austria a few months ago, and I think they're a complete team. They're perhaps the best team. I mean, as a team unit, they're a team that presses very aggressively high up the pitch, very consistently. They're excellent in transition. And they're a complete team, as I've said. A few days ago, they remind me of a club team because they're able to recognize all different match situations. And so they're a complete team, in my opinion.
Gazzetta dello Sport, qua Vincenzo. Ciao. Sei l'ultimo esponente italiano perché adesso ho perso anche tedesco.
You're the last Italian survivor at this tournament because Domenico Tedesco's just gone out. How does that feel? Because that wasn't planned for, especially with so many Italians going out, especially Italy. You know, you're flying the flag for Italy. Kenan Yildiz, you decided to back him even before he came through at Juventus, so you saw something in him. You handed him his debut very young. What was it that struck you about Kenan Yildiz? And what did you like about his group stage performances? And what more can he produce as he learns day in, day out on the training ground? No, as for me being the last of the Italians, ultimately that's a statistical quirk and it doesn't hold much water. I would have preferred to have still had at least 4 Italians in the semi-finals of this competition. As for Kenan Yildiz, I think he's a good player. He's got a great mindset. That's what struck me right from the outset. He's someone who wants to improve in every single training session. I like his pace, his technique, his skill running at pace. Of course, he needs to get better in terms of how consistent he is over the course of 90 minutes. He needs to score more goals. He's gone close on a couple of occasions. He was a little bit unlucky in the first match. He needs to do a better job and be a bit more clinical in driving at goal.
Çeviri düzeltmesi yapıyorum. Hoca İtalya milli takım çeyrek finalde keşke olsaydı demedi.
A correction to the interpretation. The coach did not say that he wished Italy would make it into the quarterfinals. He just referred to the 4 Italian coaches.
Hocam başarılar, Mert başarılar.
Coach, good luck. Mert, good luck.
Zorlukları seven, 90 dakika mücadele
The
eden,
national team
bitiremeyen,
likes a
isteyen,
challenge.
önemli bir
They fight hard
vizyona sahip. Rakibimiz
during
Avusturya'nın yani
the whole 90 minutes, and
sistem ve taktiğini çok
the
iyi biliyoruz, ezberledik.
opponent, Austria, we know their system, we know their tactics really well, and you also probably did your own analysis. What are the positives and the negatives in terms of how they play, and what could be some advantages for Turkey tomorrow? Thank you.
Per me o per Mert? Per me? No, non rispondo perché con sincerità, perché altrimenti diciamo...
Quite honestly, I'm not going to answer that question because otherwise we might be able to reveal our game plan for the opposition coach, and that's not the case. As I said before, they're a very compact, complete team. They're very good in transition, and so they're a complete team, as I've said.
Hi. Here, Andrés Rubio from Spanish TV, Spanish television. I want to ask you, how is training with Arda Güler? He's very young, but he seems never get nervous.
Il talento non prescinde dall'età, Se non è talentuoso lo è anche
If
a
you're
15
good
anni.
enough, you're old enough. If you're talented, you are at age 15 as well. He's a very talented player, and that's there for all to see. Of course, there are certain areas of his game that he needs to improve, but it's difficult to leave him out because, as you see on the training ground, when you see those that takes shots and scores goals, he's amongst the best of the lot.
Gibi bir şey söylemedi. Sadece onun gibi bir futbolcunun olmadığında farkını hissediyorsunuz. Eksikliğini
So the coach said that when you are playing without Arda, you feel his absence.
Quella deve migliorare, ma è giovane e ci arriverà a farla poi.
As I said, he's a young player. He needs to improve in certain areas, but he will improve on that score as well.
Hi, Mr. Montella. Nick Ames from the Guardian newspaper in London. I know we've talked a lot about the game against Austria in March, but you were under pressure after that game. I think on television you were asked whether you would resign, for example. Could you talk a bit about the difference between your team then and now, and whether that game was maybe a sort of watershed moment in your management of this team as well?
No, è stata una partita che noi oggettivamente il primo tempo fu giocata in equilibrio.
That was a game whereby the first half was fairly even.
In qualsiasi modo, no?
It could have finished with any possible scoreline. There could have gone one way or the other. As for the second half, we had a bit of a psychological block and we couldn't recover, and it became a very humiliating defeat, even on a personal level, because I don't recall ever having lost with a bigger scoreline, neither as a player nor as a coach. Now it's another matter, it's another game. Ralf Rangnick knows that as well. He's spoken about it, and I hope that things pan out differently.
My name is Safa Kaan Öztürk. So good luck for tomorrow. My question will have to do with Barış Alper Yılmaz, and it has to do with the team's attacking plan, because in the first three games we've seen that we've had a lot of different variations and players in attacking, but in the second half of the third game, Barış Alper Yılmaz played on the right flank, and that maybe got him to the player of the match position. In the second half of the game against Czechia, our offensive lineup, will that make a certain impact on your decisions for this game, especially for Barış Alper Yılmaz?
Allora, intanto grazie per la domanda, no? Perché è da capire se la fase di possesso per voi.
First and foremost, thank you for the question.
E la fase realizzativa è stata sufficiente in queste prime tre partite.
It was interesting to see whether we've kept the ball well enough or we've scored enough goals in the first few games. But this is some UEFA statistics. We are the third best team in terms of the number of goals we've scored, 5. With 5 different players, without any corners, without any direct free kicks, without any indirect free kicks, with any own goals or penalties. So that's the first statistic. We are the third best team in terms of total shots, 15 at the first half of matches. So typically that's about 17 shots per game. So we are third in terms of total shots per game, 17. We have created 150 chances. We are third in terms of number of completed dribbles, 53. We're fifth in terms of number of assists, 3. So I think in possession we're doing excellently. We're doing excellently in front of goal as well. In fact, in terms of how many opportunities we create, we need to score more goals, and I hope that that will come to pass. Barish played incredibly, even from a physical perspective as well. But everyone is important in our squad. All of our players are important in this team because we are showing that. I don't know how many goals we've scored with different players ever since I've been in charge of Turkey. I really believe a lot more in the team ethic as opposed to individuals. Barish Yilmaz is one of those players that's making the difference. And what more can I say about that? It depends on the game plan, the spell of the match, the type of game that pans out. We might come up with different solutions because we've got 2 strikers who play with their back to goal. They're proper traditional players that can play up on their own, Bertug and Cenk Tosun as well. So it could be a second striker, plays as a winger at club level as well. So we do have different options based on how the game pans out.
A correction in the statistics. In the group stage, yes, we're in the 3rd place. We scored 5 goals. In terms of the total number of kicks, 50, again in 3rd place. And we have 16.67 kicks per game, 21 corner kicks, 3rd in the group. And when you look at the offensive action, 161, so 5th place. And when you look at the numbers, we could have scored more goals, but as I mentioned, when it comes to possession, we are actually happy because we produce a lot of opportunities. We could have done more, but when it comes to dribbling, we're in the 5th place. We tried dribbling positions 53 times. So when you look at the data, we have produced a lot as a team. Ahmet Selim Kul from Habertürk. Tomorrow we have 2 suspended players. In the previous game we also had a suspended player, and in the last game there were a lot of yellow cards. Is this part of our tactical approach to the game, or are we bothered by the situation because we're missing these 2 players? What do you think?
No, I always want everyone available for selection. We will be without 2 players and we'll be without our captain who's can't be replaced, irreplaceable. He played very well, just as Zamet played very well as well. And after 2 yellow cards, you do pick up a suspension, and these are key absentees. I don't know how to translate this, but of course it does bother me a little bit given that we picked up these yellow cards despite them being not clearly cautionable offences. But I do believe that there will be players who are ready to step in and who do their job.
My name is Ceyla from TRT Sport. My question is to Mert Muldur. In Turkey, the public opinion can be quite tense. You can have extremely positive and negative criticism at the same time. Are you stressed by these comments? What do you think? Well, I agree with what you have just said, but we should not be affected by this criticism, and we are not, because we have to focus on our job, on the job at hand. And if we want to be successful, we cannot really get hung up on these comments. Sometimes really harsh criticism gets to you, but at the end of the day, we have to focus on the task at hand, and we are here to make our country happy.
Mister, buonasera. Gabriele Anello, Calcio da Dietro. Una domanda riguardo l'enorme talento che la Turchia ha.
Good evening. A question about Arda Güler. We've seen Kenan Yildiz as well. The question is whether we'll have an opportunity to see all 3 of your players born in 2005 together, even though you don't want to give away your game plan. I don't want to make a mistake. Maybe you're better than I am. I don't think in any team has actually picked 2 players born in 2005 from in the starting 11. I don't think that's come to pass yet. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think that's the case. So as a team, I think we are very open to young talent. We've got 2003 on the bench as well, a centre-back, and hope that there'll also be scope to play him as well at this tournament, as well as the player you mentioned.
Ek olarak yani şu ana kadar oynamamış Ahmet Can Kaplan da var.
To
Mesela çok
add,
yetenekli ve
we also
geleceği
have Ahmet
gerçekten
Can Kaplan, who's very talented,
elinde olan bir futbolcumuz da var. Yani
and
gençlere
he
yönelik
has a bright
çok
future
açık,
ahead of him. So
yetenekli
this team
olan
is
bir
very
futbolcumuz var.
open
Çok açık
for
bir
young
vizyonumuz
talent.
var.
That's the vision we have.
Çiğdem Günal, hocam başarılar diliyorum yarın için.
Çiğdem Günal from TV Sport. Coach, good luck for tomorrow's game. Some of the players remember, of course, the defeat against Austria in the friendly game before the tournament, and they said that they are more excited for tomorrow's game because of what happened in that game. Did you talk to the players with regard to that friendly that we lost against Austria, or do you think this is a completely separate game and we need separate motivation for this game? Thank you.
Ma abbiamo visto delle cose, abbiamo parlato a suo tempo, ne abbiamo parlato dopo, ma io credo
I have seen things, we spoke about things at the time, we spoke about it afterwards.
il primo problema è quello di non farsi prendere.
But I think the first issue is to make sure that we don't let emotions get the better of us and don't try and go out there and avenge that defeat, because you can then have your mind slightly clouded, you can lose concentration. We know what sort of team Austria are, we know what sort of team we are, we know what we want to produce on the pitch, and we know where we want to get to. That's our goal, that has to be our mindset. As for everything else, it's all gossip. Talk is cheap.
Last two questions.
Tekrar merhaba, Anadolu Ajansı İlmi Sever. Aslında herkes son maçı konuşuyor ama
Hilmi Sever from Anadolu Agency. Now, the Austrian coach referred to these statistics, and we haven't lost against Austria in official games in the past 35 years. And the Austrian coach said that they feel at home here and they have players who play for Leipzig. So will Austrian team think they are not actually at home, given the number of Turkish fans that are expected at the stadium?
Io mi aspetto come al solito lo stadio insomma bianco rosso come è stato fino adesso.
As ever, I expect the stadium to be decked out in red and white as it has been up until now. They've given us a lot of support. They've got right behind us even when the going got tough, when during certain matches. So I do expect a very fiery atmosphere from our fans as ever.
Vahittin Çiçek TV.net, yarın turu geçmeniz halinde nereye kadar ilerleyebileceğinizi düşünüyorsunuz? Yarı final, Berlin'i
If you win the game
görebilecek
tomorrow,
misiniz?
will you make it to the semis? How far, how deep into the tournament can you advance?
Sicuramente ai quarti.
We can certainly make it to the quarterfinals.
Thank you.
Tamam?
Yeah.
Okay. Teşekkürler.
Thank you everyone.
Teşekkürler.